It is my pleasure to warmly welcome you to this session here on day 1, 16 June of the Prime Global Forum 2021. The title of this session and this wonderful panel here today is When Theory Meets Practice, Enabling Ecosystems for Collective Impact Together. So this session will focus on how business and leadership education can collaborate to generate collective impact to create the world we want. Excellent examples of collaborations between business, faculty, and students will be provided and shared here in the virtual room of the space, where we have some excellent speakers with a lot of experience on exactly that kind of cross-sector collaboration. So I'll be very excited to listen here to my panel over the next 45 minutes and to hear your experiences. So can I first invite you, Steve Kenzie, to join the floor and to let us know about some of the best practices, concrete experiences between business and business schools that you have worked with, and let us know why you think they were so excellent. And please also introduce yourself to the audience here.
Thanks very much, Mette. So yes, Steve Kenzie, I'm the Executive Director of the UN Global Compact Network in the UK. I've been in that role since 2008, supporting UK-based participants in the Global Compact to fulfill the commitments that they've made to our 10 principles. I've also had the pleasure of collaborating fairly extensively with the Prime chapter for UK and Ireland. I was able to share some of my experience in launching the Global Compact Network to help them with governance in launching the Prime chapter way back many years ago. And I have been invited to sit on the steering group for the chapter, which I've happily done. And we welcome the chair of the Prime chapter steering group on the advisory group of the Global Compact Network. So it's been quite a good synergy between us. One of the best things that we did together that I would share as an example was a Global Goals Roadshow. It's been some years when both of our organizations were a little smaller then, but it was a really productive collaboration where Prime institutions provided the hosting and helped us with speakers and helped us to promote events. And we brought in other business speakers and did the marketing. And we visited over the course of a shockingly short time. I think in 2 months, we visited 13 cities and delivered half-day programs to raise awareness about the SDGs, to get business engaged, as well as, of course, academia. And we had really great multi-stakeholder audiences. And I think these sessions were a great success. Another great engagement that we had with
Can I ask you, Steve? Can I ask you a little bit? I think this is really wonderful, but why was this a success? What sort of did that actually create for the community? Can I ask you about that?
Not to put too much on it, but the UN brand, especially outside of London, does have some drawing power. And what we found was when we were branding an event, the UN is coming to town, it pulled out people and we were able to attract people to that event that might not have come otherwise. And some of the local partners that we engaged, smaller local organizations that were working on the SDGs, by allying themselves with us, we were able to help them make connections with people in their own community that they actually had struggled to make those breakthroughs with in the past. And it was interesting because when we revisited some of these communities the next year and the next year, we found actually the relationships had really flourished and led to some really fantastic projects in those communities. So it can be a real catalyst, a partnership like this, when it's truly multi-stakeholder, because you get people talking to each other that wouldn't normally get to talk to each other. And so we didn't do a great job. You know, we're running behind on the, I learned about M&E yesterday, the monitoring and evaluation, and we have a lot of catching up to do. And So I don't have a lot of really concrete metrics to show for it, but anecdotally, I can point to some of these partnerships and the great projects that have resulted from the roadshow. It was really good. The other example I was going to share was a collaboration with. It started with a personal connection with a lecturer at INSEAD. She had developed and was delivering a module for MBA students on the SDGs, and we worked on the content together. But then we wanted to have a real case study, so the students got a proper sense of the complexity of taking these sustainability issues into the real world, and that it just wasn't something that you could pull out of a textbook. And we worked with a company called Arup. They're a global engineering firm with very high standards in sustainability, and they've been participants in our own Young SDG Innovators program and are very active in the Global Compact Network. And together we worked up a real challenge that they were facing, that they were looking for some actual different perspectives on. And we presented that challenge to the students. They produced reports back and presented them to a representative from the company. So it was a really valuable. The company got some great insights. The students got actual face time with an executive working on these issues in the real world. And I think they learned a lot. Again, I think it was a really positive win-win for all parties.
No, thank you very much, Steve. I love the idea of the roadshow. I can imagine that it has been a huge jigsaw puzzle to organize, but I can also see the convening power of mobilizing new people and new institutions to the dialogue has been powerful. And of course, love the other example, and also engaging students, as you mentioned. Thank you very much for this wonderful examples. Krista, over to you, please. You sort of arrive with another hat on here in your prime role. Please.
Thank you, Meta. I'm going to speak about examples I know best, and so they're from my own school's experience. I'll introduce myself. I'm Krista Finstad-Million. I'm professor and director of Department of Human Resource Management and Organizational Behavior at ICN Business School in beautiful Nancy. You can see behind me the beautiful Place Stanislas Square, which is part of the UNESCO patrimony, by the way. And I'm also, since December 2020, chair of the chapter, the France Benelux chapter. So for the moment, my examples are derived from my own experience. Hopefully in a year's time, I'll be able to share examples from many other schools in my chapter. Now the two I'd like to share with you, I'll start with the first one, are ones that I designed with business partners, members of the business community. And the first one is between my school, ICN Business School, so in Nancy, France, Eastern France, and De Boyer. Now, De Boyer is a 200-year-old manufacturer of top-of-the-range cooking utensils set in a forested valley in the Vosges. It's a rural county in Eastern France. De Boyer cooking utensils can be found throughout the world, commonly in five-star restaurants and embassies, as well as in the kitchens of demanding home cooks. Now, wherever the utensils are found in the world, they were all made in this factory in the Vosges, in this little valley. The partnership evolved over a 5-year period in a workshop that brings together international and international-minded students in a master program from our business school, an art and design school, and an engineer school, which come together. We cohabitate, we share the same campus. It's called the Artem Consortium. This 90-hour workshop is called Design Thinking for Sustainable Change, and it puts the students in the role of sustainability ambassadors. They help our business partners identify and assess their organizational practices. We use the ISO 26000 flash audit, and we speak of co-learning. It really is a co-learning experience. The triangle is the professor team, the students, and the partners. When we started working with De Boyer, it was in 2012. We introduced the word CSR and sustainable development in the company vocabulary, even to the CEO. The partnership evolved over 5 years. It attracted students from a wide range of disciplines and from over 15 different countries, always in small groups. And to make it more difficult, it was in English, and we had to work in a very French rural community, but we managed. It's an international company, it was exciting, and it worked. 2 years after the end of the partnership, I replaced another professor at the last minute on a Master of Luxury student visit of the company. And the company was not expecting me. And to my great satisfaction, so this is 2 years after we finished this 5-year partnership, to my great satisfaction, the entire visit was filled with statements attesting to the company's commitment to CSR. And so this sustainable development friendly visitor tours was just one of the projects that my workshop students proposed in a very detailed way. And so in the end, the company implemented their proposal. Now, regularly, as I live in the same county, this rural county, regularly in the local press, and it's a rural, very rural press, there are articles on the Bois' commitment to CSR. And on the company's website, you can read only company in the cookware industry to have achieved the advanced level for the CSR assessment. Now, why is this an excellent example? The question that you asked, Meta, is because the workshop with the students as sustainability ambassadors made the company's commitment to sustainable development visible. It was already there. We made it visible. We helped them make it visible, and we helped make it strategic. It was put on the strategic agenda, and it was became a veritable source of pride for employees and members of their community. And it's kind of a flagship example of CSR in the region, and it was a best example because of the top management's commitment and willingness to learn. The humility for them to learn about sustainability with the students. And this is even through things like Lego. We did Lego and imagining the future with Lego.
No,
so that was one example.
Yeah, thank you very much, Krista, for sharing this example and also the details of it. And of course, I love the idea that you have business, you have students, and you have professors in that, what you said, the triangle, and actually that you also talk about the outcomes for the business in this case. And this being a co-learning exercise. Thank you very much for this example. It's a wonderful examples. Gustavo, please, over to you. You are based in Brazil and you lead one of our largest Prime chapters, Latin American Caribbean. Please.
That's true. Thank you, Matty. Thank you for the invitation. And it's a pleasure to be here today. So I'm Gustavo Liola. I'm chair of Latin American the Caribbean chapter. I'm based in Brazil. So also a professor and programs coordinator at ISAI. It's a business school here. Was reflecting about good practices and good case related to this. And I would like to share also some personal experience that we have here at ISAI, but that is replicated, and we see this in different business schools too. But for example, in the past years, we are seeing a rising number of companies that are aiming to pay for some students' tuition. So we have some students that are, I would say, sponsored by some companies, even in undergrad programs and master programs. And this is really interesting because for the student, this interaction, it gives a sense of responsibility and collaboration, because he can see what he is learning on the classroom inside the companies in the practical view. And also the company can value the development of the students and the learnings and replicate and apply inside their own companies. For example, we have some undergrad students that are sponsored for companies like Bosch, for example, and they study, they do the regular program, but they also work as interns inside the company so they can build these bridges and do these interactions and connections. And it's really good because in such a short time, the student can understand a lot of business environment and connect with the learners in the university and the business schools and apply. And also the company values this time the student is inside the university and bringing different perspectives and different knowledge. In another view, when we look to master programs, for example, we have a professional master program, and we had lots of cases on this. And the students at this level, they already are in leadership positions inside the company, so they also have this management view and management responsibilities. So when they go to the school and build this bridge and this interaction, it's like a different world of exploration. So the student came from the company and where they have only the practical view, the day-by-day activities, and when he comes to the classroom, you have to do the readings, do the projects, develop their own thesis. He always look to the company's challenge and brings different perspectives, discuss this inside the classroom. So this interaction is really well succeed. And in the master program, we see this a lot. And this is really amazing because the student developed, for example, the theses or research, looking for the company reality, the challenge they are facing. So this is a really true contribution from the academia for the business environment, and from the business environment to the academia. So this is something that we have at ISAI, but we also see in different universities in Brazil and even Latin America, and it's growing and increasing. So this is a interesting point. Another point to share is that some companies are launching biggie challenge and looking for solutions from the students from the universities. So we have a case here from Ambev. It's a beverage company. They launched some kind of accelerator program. So they look in universities, in students' reality, someone who are interested in solve company problems, solve companies' issues, and then they help the student to organize, for example, a startup or an entrepreneur or a new business, and develop and accelerate this business. And in the end, for example, they buy the business itself, or they buy the startup, or they invite the student to be a consultant or work inside the company. So this, I think this is good, I would say, because we have in university lots of students and research, for example, professors that are looking for challenge, looking for different problems that they came from the world itself, the business environment, and in companies they also have the challenge to be solved. So this interaction and this connection is really good. And I would say that, just to complement, like, for example, we had in Prime the innovation challenge. It's a really huge example that you have the company's challenge and you have students and university bringing solutions. So these interactions, I think it's something growing, something that we can explore for sure.
Thank you, Gustavo, for these very student-oriented examples that you bring in here. And I do think that there is much more potential for engaging students actually than what we see, at least at a global scale. Cheng, it's a pleasure to invite you here on the stage also for a few examples from your background. You are based in South Africa with the Global Compact Network. Please.
Thank you very much, Matt. So for us in South Africa, our collaboration with Prime is through the Gordon Institute of Business Science, and in its very broad collaboration, because even though we are an independent network, Global Compact Network South Africa, we are hosted inside of GIBS, as we call it in short, inside the business school. And this was out of the complementarity. We looked at each other and we realized that the Global Compact Network, or the Global Compact itself, and the Gordon Institute of Business Science had so much in complementarity, things in common, the aspirations, what they're doing with their MBA students. And the fact that they were actually interested on SDG research, research on the 10 principles of the Global Compact. And so it's a very symbiotic relationship between us and the business school. And we've done several things together, but out of our also appreciation for the role of research in the work that we do through the Global Compact network. And so the one important thing before I even delve into the collaboration is the fact that the GIBS works with companies as well, and sometimes with the different people in those companies that the network works with. So they are broad reach as well into the very large companies. Also broadens our own reach within the compact itself. Our challenge and our ambition has been to, as the Global Compact, to ensure that when we enter into a company, we are not just reaching out to maybe 2 or 3 business units, but we want the SDG action, the ESG thinking to be entirely embedded in the company, right from strategy, driven by the board, to the, the bottom employees as well. So the fact that we are broadening our own reach into some of these very large companies through this collaboration is already extremely beneficial. But the more tangible collaboration that we have done with GIBS is through the Global Compact Young SDG Innovators Program. We are in the 2nd year of implementing this program, and for us, I think the school has brought in so much support. We run this program, it's almost like an MBA, a crash MBA program. But exciting on one hand because we give a chance to young managers from companies under 35. Some of them have never done an MBA program, and it's an innovation challenge program where we challenge them to innovate on the SDGs. And so 2 to 4, employees per company. And what GIBS has done with us on this program is support us through the faculty. So most of our coaches and mentors are from the GIBS faculty. And that, that means that there's a lot of transfer of knowledge and support in terms of design thinking, helping us to facilitate. We get a broad range of expertise, some of them on breakthrough innovation, on prototyping, and on the whole spectrum of the components that we deliver through the YSIP program. But also last year, before the COVID shutdown, when GIBS hosted the Prime Champions in South Africa, we then collaborated on side events like this on, just trying to unpack the links between research and practice, the role that they could play a lot more strongly in supporting the implementation of the SDGs by companies in South Africa. So for us, very beneficial, very tangible support, a very strong collaboration between the business schools and ourselves. Thank you, Mata.
Thank you very much for sharing these experiences, and also focusing here again on young or early career, and also some of the students participating in the YSIP program. And of course, it's quite unique that the Global Compact Network is based physically in a university in South Africa. I think that is not the case for many chapters or for many Global Compact networks to have that tight collaboration with each other. So I would like to sort of also to invite you with me here to reflect a little bit about the future and the promise of the future, and also a little bit about other ways of collaborating that or even scaling the collaborations that we have already heard that you are engaging in on the ground. I was participating in a local network, exciting local network forum just a few weeks ago, and here we had a lot of good examples, and we had a lot of sort of future hope also, and there were a lot of talk also about research and research collaborations. We've not heard many research collaborations examples here from this panel here today, but I would like to invite your reflections on the kind of research. Maybe Krista, I would like to invite you, because I know that you have actually engaged in a research collaboration in the Benelux chapter with businesses as well.
Well, absolutely. I think research should be one of the outputs of anything. Even if before talking about what our chapter does, the previous example I gave you, it gave way to one scientific article on educating sustainability, and another in experiential learning and international business school. So that was just one example of one school. So that should be an imperative somehow. If not, research is at the top of our agenda of our chapter, and learning from what other partners in the chapter do. We have this SDG barometer. Meta, you invited us to have a talk about it, and it was the Belgian schools, 3 Belgian schools, who put together an SDG barometer and have it's given way to qualitative and quantitative studies, and has become the SDG barometer in Belgium, which is fantastic, a real landmark. It takes time to put together research. But we are mobilized. We've identified partners. We're learning from the Belgian partners who are transferring their learning to the Netherlands partners. It won't look exactly the same, but we are inspired by what they're doing, and we're investigating about what we can do. It's essential. Research is really essential.
Yeah, no, thank you for this SDG barometer example from Belgium also. I'm very impressed by this. But Steve, I would also like to sort of hear your reflections on working with governments, and how that sort of also may come into the consideration with white papers, for example. Is this something that you have worked with in your network?
We have a fair bit of engagement with the government, but it is challenging. Anytime a university is a huge institution, a government finding the person that can really help to move a project along, or that we want to talk to. And then when we're trying to bring together multiple large organizations, it is very difficult to cut to the chase. And I was just discussing this earlier today with someone, the challenge of connecting people, and just, we were wondering, where does the government go to when they need an academic expert, and thinking, some sort of registry, if it doesn't already exist, would be very helpful, because to avoid always going back to the same people, or always just being based more on personal relationships rather than competence and knowledge of the subject matter. I think it would be well known, I think, to prime participants, that there are brilliant people working in less well-known institutions, and if we base always the selection process on the reputation of an institution rather than looking a little deeper, we're missing opportunities to hear those voices. So I'm certainly seeing that is an issue with the government, a tendency to align themselves with a smaller number of institutions perhaps than they might. And so I certainly think, again, we have a role perhaps in helping to raise the profile of the good work that's being done by others.
Yes, no, thank you for that. Yes, definitely important and complex to sort of engage with governments, but I think also there's a huge potential in, you could say, the convening power that you talked about before, Stephen, that we do come with as a UN unit, and therefore also legitimate. And I think that research can help. I know that in the Danish chapter that Sarah Krüger has been working with researchers, I was partly involved myself at the time, to inform the Danish government about SME reporting. So she was sort of giving input to the development of the white paper by the government on some of the concerns about not just adopting the multinational perspective on reporting and pushing it on SMEs. So here was the Danish local network sort of engaging in a very concrete sense, which I thought was really interesting.
And I think Global Compact and Prime organizations are, because of the public commitments that our member companies and academic institutions have made, we're walking the talk. So I think it makes our organizations, particularly well suited to be leading in those areas.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yes, yes, no, of course, I absolutely agree. No wonder. But Gustavo, maybe I can just turn over to you because I heard the other day that you are working on a think tank in Brazil across the local network and also including the Prime chapter. Maybe you could tell a little bit more about that very concrete think tank idea.
Yeah, yeah. I would like to add in the discussions the points raised by Chris and Stephen, that I think research and SDGs, for example, it's a common point for different sectors in the society, and things that the key point to have this win-win collaboration between different members of this ecosystem. So just bringing some examples on that, we have a really good partnership in the government level and the local level, and engaging students and researchers to develop. In the municipality level, we have students and researchers working in local indicators for the SDGs and connecting with the local government plan, political plan for the city. So they did some kind of interpretation of the global SDGs and targets, etc., and try to create local indicators to connect this to the local government, so the mayor can take decisions based on that, and the municipality could report, for example, the progress related to the SDGs. So this is a project that is taking more than a year to develop in a multi-group engaging students, researchers, and also the government level. And also in the state level too, I remember right in the beginning, we involved in the initial discussions of the Paraná state here in Brazil, related to the SDGs, when they are understanding what is the SDGs. So we played a really active role in this, bringing examples and educating on that. And then they create a local hub for SDGs and connecting different organizations of the government to discuss this. And today, together with OECD too, they are really engaged, and they also have indicators. So this is growing. So I see that this knowledge and research and this background of the SDGs is a really good enabler for partnerships in different sectors. And related to the think tank, Carlo from the local network in Brazil brings this idea, and it's something that we are reflecting even in regional level, about this point of interaction, this hub of discussion, this ecosystem, because we have, as UN initiatives, we have this common goal to deal with the SDGs, to try to contribute and overcome this and face this challenge. And so this is the baseline of the common point. And each of these organizations, UN organizations, for example, have their own expertise and capabilities. So if we work in this common ground, we can build different solutions and reactions. And for example, in the Brazilian level, the Global Compact local network, and also the chapter Brazil, they are developed a really strong work understanding points of collaboration. So there are some research projects, there are some joint programs, there are some mapping going on. So I think we are evolving on this think tank creation, this ecosystem of interaction in sharing capabilities and also responsibilities. So this is something coming for the future, I would say.
Yes. No, thank you very much. And thank you very much for sort of also pointing to the future aspiration here. And Ching, I would like to ask you, because you've sort of been embedded so closely for so long with university, you say Prime school and the global network. What are the future aspirations for what's the next step? And I would also like to ask you if you are engaging in each other's more concretely, you know, if you are engaging in each other's sort of governance structures. I mean, do you, for example, have a member of GIPS or so from somewhere else, someone else, you know, on your steering committee, for example, as they do in the UK, Ireland, and I understand in Germany also, and in Canada, for example, where Prime are, there's a Prime member on the Global Compact steering committee. Is that the case also in South Africa?
Thank you, Matt. I will start by saying that just this morning, we have collaborated with the Graduate School of Business, the University of Cape Town, on a research, to communicate research findings on the uptake of the SDGs in the continent. So they included us in that research. They talked to companies who are Global Compact participants, and also involved 4 other networks from the African continent. And so we are interested in the capacity of the business schools and universities to derive, to help us in capturing the knowledge and trends and research, so that we are able to understand the gaps and opportunities that exist. We are able to understand where the companies are. So we have very practical examples with several other universities as well. But looking into the future, we think there's more space for creating some of these supportive programs. And that is a space that we keep open. I think we were just interrupted by COVID, but we have talked with Gibbs about exploring certain opportunities where we could co-create based on mutual interest. In terms of our governance, yes, we do have a seat on the board that academic institutions can sit on. We don't have someone sitting there yet, but come March next year, we refresh the board, and we want at least one person from the academic institution to take up.
Sounds fabulous. Sounds fabulous. Thank you. Yeah, sounds good. So I would like just to invite the panel here to take a last quick round for your future aspirations for the kind of collaboration we're talking about here. What are the next steps? What is it that we would like to see locally or globally? And Steve, can I ask you to maybe take a first very brief comment, because we only have a few moments left. It's always like that in these 45-minute panels. Time is too short, but so please a short statement about future aspirations. Steve, please.
Locally, I would like to work more closely with my colleagues in the Prime steering group. That idea of a speaker register is something that we're going to look at developing at a UK level, and hopefully we'll create something that could be scalable and a useful resource globally to help facilitate greater collaboration between networks and chapters. Globally, at the risk of pandering to our audience, I know you're already aware of this, the importance of resourcing the chapters and local networks adequately. It's an ongoing debate. We have such ambition, and I think the implementation on the ground is so critical. And so I think we need to find creative ways to expand the capacity of local networks and chapters with or without actual funding, and by squeezing out more efficiency by working together either across regions or between chapters and local networks. I think it's a really important step in building that capacity.
Thank you. Very, very well said, Steve. Thank you so much. Krista, over to you. Future aspirations from your side.
I think we could start by using this global forum really as an opportunity for networking, because that's one of the reasons it exists. And through the chat board, I think there are opportunities to connect with people, or through speakers or participants who ask questions. Like minds, we like minds are easier to build research projects with like minds or common problems. And I think we can identify many common problems or interests or answers. I know we've done it already thanks to one of the sessions on engaged scholarship. All of a sudden we've discovered all these other engaged scholars around the world, and we're thinking, what can we do next? So I would say start today to think about tomorrow. You never know what can come out of a conversation, whether it could be a research project, whether it can be a pedagogical event. But thanks to the pandemic, things are much easier to connect. It's much easier to connect.
No, that's true. Thank
digitally.
you. Thank you for this very concrete idea, Krista. Let's start now. Thank you so much. Cheng, before I hand over to you, Gustavo, for the final aspiration for the future, you've already alluded a bit to it, Cheng, but maybe you would emphasize sort of your, could say, sort of most important aspiration.
I think targeted research on the issues that we deal with in a way that companies can use and consume, and even just helping us to document some of this work that we are doing. There's amazing best practice emerging, and that's really necessary for future learning. So we need to keep a repository of this. There's endless opportunities for collaboration. Thank you.
Yes. And thank you. And also what you're saying about research, this will also be a way of knowledge sharing, which we are very much about in the Prime and Global Compact Network communities. Thank you. Gustavo, over to you. Future aspirations from your side.
Well, I think we must construct bridges and break the walls or silos that divides business schools or academia and the business environment and the society. And I think that for increase this, we should create more ecosystems for interaction as we share common issues and common challenges, those spaces that can create and connect business schools, students, faculty, research. In my opinion, just the collaborative work can help us to build this world more resilient and more sustainable.
Yes, thank you very much, Gustavo, for this wonderful call for action as well. And I think there's been a lot of call for action in this panel, and there's a lot of us, lot for us to do in the future. As you've all said, we cannot do it all, but we should try to prioritize. And we've got, wonderful input from the panel here today. We also got a wonderful long list from some of the work that we've been doing over the past weeks in terms of collecting input from the Global Compact Network and from the Prime Network to sort of understand better what are you could say, sort of the scope of what we can do. And then we need to prioritize and get started. And maybe we will start small, because we want this to be a success. There's already a lot of things going on, but maybe we would like to start small on a number of new initiatives as well. I think there is a great opportunity in simply also understanding what already is going on, because I often hear that there's too little going on. And when I listen to this panel, for example, I'm amazed to hear about all the things that are wonderful things that are already going on. So I think if we could get more knowledge about that, that could even be a start point for an inspiration for those who have not started engaging so much with each other yet. So there's more work for us to do out there, I'm happy to say, and it's all a very exciting journey. Thank you so much, Steve, Krista, Cheng, and Gustavo, for joining this panel here today. I really appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you, Mette.
Thank you so much.